Hello indie game fans, we are not completely back with the new releases this week, but there are some smaller games and ports of interest, most of which seems to be releasing on Thursday, which is about right as people start to come back from their Christmas break, so please join me for the first episode of Indie Gaming this week for 2022. Let's begin with Nightmare the Lunatic, a pixel art roguelike platformer that looks pretty decent, where you're battling to escape your nightmares. There are 3 weapons in a sword, bow and gun, with some pretty good looking characters and enemy designs, which reminds me of some combination of Skull the Hero Slayer, Rogue Legacy and Dead Cells. If you didn't already spot it, it does appear that this also comes to us from a Korean developer, following in the footsteps of Skull, so I'll give them a shot, but as is tradition with this genre, it will be an early access release. We have a number of first-person simulators and demos this week, beginning with Electrician Simulator First Shock, the demo of a title that has you tinkering with electrical wiring and devices that, if accurate, could be quite an educational experience. First-person sims have a funny way of blowing up in popularity, and add to that the theme which I'm genuinely curious about, and you got my attention. An interesting looking point and click adventure game is Crowalt Traces of the Lost Colony, where you play as an adventurer on a quest to uncover one of the greatest mysteries in history, the mysterious disappearances of the first settlers that came to America in 1587, who simply left behind the name of an island in Crowalt. I do certainly see some Monkey Island DNA in this, which makes it of interest, but what also stands out to me is the art, where the developer uses a curious mix of pixel art and hand-drawn art, where even the pixel art itself is mixed, with bold outlines for the character's body but not for the head, which gives it an interesting but not the most pleasant of looks. Our next demo of a first-person simulator is Cowboy Life Simulator Prologue, one that is pretty self-explanatory and follows a long line of such games, where of course it has you playing as a cowboy in the Wild West. However, you are not a Western movie gunslinger type action hero, but rather start off as a poor farmer who has to tend to the cattle, but it does look pretty well made, so if it looks good to you, be sure to check this out. An interesting looking narrative horror RPG is An Outcry, where you play as the Unnamed, a resident in an apartment block in Vienna, Austria, who happens to find themselves locked out of their apartment at night, which is where our adventure begins. If it is not obvious, this is made in RPG Maker, where the developer curiously chose the 2003 version, but don't discount the title solely based on that, since this looks pretty interesting, in perhaps a fashion similar to the Moon, only much creepier. Unnamed can talk to birds and smoke, where you need to keep our protagonist alive and safe from the encroaching darkness.
Nameless.
While it is heavily a text-based and narrative-focused game, apparently there are some turn-based combat sections as well, making this quite the curiosity for the week. To be honest, I'm not really a fan of first-person sims since they do seem like streamer bait in many ways, but for whatever reason, some of these do tend to get massively popular, so you may find something to enjoy, with Internet Cafe Simulator 2 being the title of interest here. This follows on from the original in 2019, which is fairly popular, where, as expected, you're running your own internet cafe and trying to earn money to pay back some debts. However, this now adds the option of VR consoles and even has first-person combat for some reason, looking like a delightful train wreck and maybe worth a look. On a slower week of releases, I do like to look at ports of significant games, where a title that you might have missed is Teamfight Manager that released on Steam in March 2021, getting a Switch port this week. As the title proposes, this is a management sim where you're managing an esports team, having to cater to their training, improving the equipment and facilities in the training house, and manage players by leveling them up, assigning skill points to their specializations, or to recruit new players. Where it does get more interesting is that you actually have a say in the esports game itself, being able to pick and ban heroes just like Dota or League of Legends, with some nice pixel art to round things off. Another sequel of interest this week is Heaven Dust 2, a zombie survival horror title that is the sequel to a game from 2020, which I believe comes to us from a Chinese studio. This sequel did update the graphics and looks pretty good, certainly having some Resident Evil vibes with the combination of action, puzzles and resource management, where you're attempting to fight your way out of a research center after you awaken from cryogenic sleep, looking like a pretty decent entry if you like this genre. PlayStation fans, this one's for you, since one of the best co-op first-person shooters, Deep Rock Galactic, releases on PS4 and 5 this week, where the constant updates throughout early access and beyond have really turned this game into something special. Post-launch, the developers are now releasing seasonal content all for free, so if you have been waiting for the port, now is your opportunity to get in, although do note that technically, this is not so indie. One of the best surprises of December is the announcement and confirmation of release date of Dead Cells Queen of the Sea, the third paid DLC for the tremendously popular roguelite platformer, following on from The Bad Seed and Fatal Falls. This adds a new alternate path in the late game areas, adding the infested shipwreck, lighthouse, and the boss fight against the Crown, with its share of new weapons, enemies, outfits, and more, where I do love the throwable shark weapon seen in this trailer. The success of this game and how Motion Twin spun off a studio named Evil Empire to further development on this is a very interesting story, but for adding more to a great game, it takes the #1 spot. For more pixel art titles, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.